So I want to talk today about the reactions that you've had to everything happening, and the reactions that I've had. A lot of them are similar. In the beginning, I was actually kind of amazed that all this was happening. It started happening before I was aware of it. I didn't go to the store till Friday afternoon, and I only wanted a bag of chips. So I get in, and I just walked in and saw the lines, and I was not aware that this had already been going on for a couple of days. So this is a week ago now, more than a week ago. So I was dumbfounded, and so of course the first thing I did was to go on Facebook like everybody else and make fun of everybody. And I think that was pretty much everybody else's. Judging from the Facebook posts I saw, this was amazing that I couldn't see one person anywhere on Facebook who wanted to identify as a hoarder, even though when I went into the stores, it was pretty apparent that everybody was hoarding, except for me. I wanted a bag of chips. Now, my character is that I wanted to be opposite of everybody. And a couple of things started happening, and this is interesting. That I had never counted rolls of toilet paper in my house before, but I went home and counted. But that's okay because I had 10, and I didn't need any, so I refused. I'm kind of I like to be opposite of everybody else, and so I refused. I went into the store several times and made quite a show of purposely not buying toilet paper. Now this is kind of an interesting thing. I kind of want to leave that there, and I'm going to come back to that. I got a record player for my wife for Christmas, and so we've been going to places and garage sales if we could find one, or used antique shops or whatever, and finding old albums. And it's funny. This album I already had some records in my possession, even though I had no record player. But it's funny when you meet people and music lovers of all types. You'll never find anybody who likes disco music. And that is true. Nobody likes disco music, and yet this right here, this is the now number 2 all-time best-selling soundtrack, Saturday Night Fever. Now, why is Saturday Night Fever the second best all-time? I mean, we're talking, almost 50 years later, it's still number 2. Well, because a lot of people at one point in time liked disco music, but now they won't admit it. Much like there's a lot of hoarders in the store, but none of them will admit it. In fact, we're all sitting there in the line, and we're all joking about the hoarders, but a lot of them I noticed who were joking about the hoarders were hoarding. They had rolls of toilet paper and all this water and everything else, and they're joking about everybody else in line. So it is kind of interesting what happened. Something happened to me shortly after that, and that is that now it kind of went in a process. Well, the first couple of days I was going to come in and I was going to be opposite of everybody else, and I still am. I've maintained that. But I would walk in and look at the people's carts. I would see it even before I was coming out. And I would shake my head quite noticeably. So I wanted everybody to know that I was opposite of them. But I was looking in their carts. Now that's something I've never done before. I've never looked at anybody else's carts to see what they were getting. But now I was. Mostly because I wanted to give them very strong disapproving looks for hoarding. But after a little while of doing that, I noticed that about Wednesday or the next week here, so we're about a week into this, I started thinking, I'm down to about 6 rolls. Now do I? I still don't want to. And so obviously it got to the point where I actually do need to make this purchase. So I broke down, and I kind of felt guilty. Like, I had not been so opposed to everybody as I, just like a personal victory that I no longer had. So I broke down and bought some toilet paper, but I did it at night, so not too many people would know. I bought 6 rolls, but then it happened. I'm still walking in, and I'm still looking at everybody's carts. But now I'm kind of thinking, they've got it. And here's a couple of pallets over, and if they're half-empty pallets, and people aren't even stocking them. They're just leaving the pallets right there on the floor and dropping them and going. Well, I got. Maybe I need to get some now. And I'm starting to think now, every time I go into the store, I'll get some just in case. And I've become just like the people, even though were I still commenting on Facebook like I had at the beginning, I would still be against those hoarders, much like you are. And yet, and this is what I say, Facebook is full of people criticizing hoarders. But I'm guarantee you, I'm talking to people who've done the same thing. And it's really tempting. And it's because that there's a thing within us that our value system is shaped by those around us. So much of what we find important, we derive from the value systems of the people we encounter. Things that we wouldn't necessarily have encountered. I want you to go back. Some of you are a little bit younger, probably in this audience, and you can't remember, but I want you to go back 25 years, if you could. If you can remember 25 years ago. No, that's hard. Today, and as I say this, I want you to think 25 years ago. Today being Saturday, I went on Katie and I take our Saturday date, and we usually do pretty much the same thing every week. We go find one of our local coffee shops, and then we go at a thrift store of some sort. I look for records, and she looks for whatever, clothes or whatever she's interested in that particular day. And when we kind of mill around and look for stuff, and we make a couple of rounds, and then we go home. Well, all the coffee shops were closed. So we had to settle for, yes, we broke down and went to McDonald's drive-thru for coffee. And we found out that all the thrift stores were closed and nobody was open. And I didn't want to do Walmart. We already did Walmart this morning. So I haven't gone to Walmart twice in a day since I was in college. And so I said, no, I really don't want to do that again. So we just went home. But go 25 years ago, and I want you to think, and you're thinking, I know you're thinking, you settled for McDonald's coffee. Yeah, I settled for McDonald's coffee. Now I want you to go back a couple of years before Starbucks was really a thing. And I know it's been a thing for a while, but probably about 25 years ago, none of you were going to Starbucks. I know you think you were, but you weren't. I know because I can remember 25 years ago. 25 years ago, well, that would have been while I was in college. And ain't nobody was going to Starbucks back then. I mean, 1995? Yeah. I mean, it might have existed. I don't even know when it started. But I know the world wasn't going to Starbucks. But things like that. And slowly but surely, everybody thought, well, that's what I have to drink. And so now, I mean, you will have people swear up and down that they can only drink Starbucks coffee. And that's just an example of how, over time, our value system becomes the value system of those around us. Right? You and I just used to get out Mr. Coffee, the old percolator pot or whatever, and just make a cup of coffee in the morning, and that was that. We didn't really have to spend, as much on a single cup of coffee as it takes to buy an entire bag of beans, But we do now, because that's the world's value system, and we all have to pretend that that little extra foam on the top makes it worth all that. because the world values it. Just like the world values that toilet paper. Or the world values those bottles of water. Even if it doesn't make sense, they value it, so we have to go along with it. And so now I'm looking at the cart and going, oh no, there's toilet paper leaving the store. I have to get some. Well, in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, Paul kind of deals with this mentality a little bit. He says, you need to come out and be separate from among them. God's people need to be different. Not that you can't buy toilet paper or that you can't drink Starbucks coffee. But the point that he makes is that he says, if you spend too much time with people, you're going to develop their value system. What part of, Christ and Satan, what connection do they have? You can't drink from the table of demons and the table of Christ. You can't do that. Those two things are separate. And we let the world's value system become ours. Now, we do need to keep in mind that Paul has already said that he doesn't expect us to leave the world and never mingle with them, but he just says you have to maintain your distance. There's things that are okay that they do, but in time they become your value system. You think about what the world finds important, and I'm talking about things more serious than Starbucks. But what has the world told us that is so vitally important? The world has told us all these things that are vitally important, be it Starbucks coffee or enjoying all these things, your money, and you have to get a great education because you have to secure all this money, the car you drive, and the house you live in, and you have to have all these things. And so people pursue all these things. And now what we're seeing now is kind of a reality check for people. Well, a lot of those things for the next couple of weeks or whatever, months, are not going to be at our disposal. And we get bored and we're like, what do I do? I've done all these things. This is kind of the schedule and the lifestyle that I've built my life around. But it's not there. And so I just want to urge you to take a step back in these next couple of weeks and look at the lifestyle choices that you make and the valuations of things that you have and say, where did I get this value system? Is this a godly valuation? I know education isn't necessarily a bad thing, but have I put it in a value system? I mean, it's not bad to buy toilet paper, but am I hoarding things? Am I trying to hold on to too many things that have to do with this life and not putting as much stock in God's valuation system? So that's what I'm going to leave you with today, and we'll see you again tomorrow.